Alright guys, time to put myself under the microscope. This will be my first cast of the day right here, so I'm going to go ahead and set it up and get it going, but I'm going to be slowing it down and showing you everything I do wrong or what I need to improve on.
Gotta bite. I think I got a lot of stress on my mind. It's a nice day to go. Yeah, I gotta learn. I'ma call the whole team.
What I'm going to do first is show you the normal cast at regular speed, and then after that I'll start cutting it up, slowing it down, zooming in what I need to show you. That way you can see everything. As you saw on that, I got my spin going and then I hit the dirt. Well, let's see how that happened. The way I start my cast is I send the weight out and I start getting it to go into a counterclockwise circular pattern. The reason for this is because I want to pull that surf weight behind me. Right there is where you see the rod load up. This is the part where I was talking about. See how the rod tip is already bowing and it already starts to bend? That's part of the load up to get it to go forward right here. However, I dropped something and it made the weight hit the ground. Let's find that. Looking at the original bend, the weight was up and back behind me. That's what made that tip bow in the fashion it did. It was bowed to where the tip was pointed upwards, and that's when the problem actually started. As I started to move forward on the cast and swing around, my right arm is bent a little bit, and that's one of the biggest things you got to learn to control, is that right arm. When you're doing this cast, you need to keep your arms as straight as possible to ensure that you don't get what they call T-Rex arms on. That's what they were calling people, T-Rexes, when they drop their elbows. When you drop your elbow like that, it will certainly pretty much bring that weight to the ground, and you're going to hit the floor, and it's going to mess up your cast like it did for me here. Also, my left arm, you can see how it's flexed a little bit as well. That is something that can also contribute to the dropping of the weight during the cast. We're sitting here trying to load up everything we can, but keeping our arms as strong as they can. This is something you're definitely going to have to practice on to keep your arms straight. That way you can finish off clean. One of the things I did also see was I almost came up off my feet with putting as much power from my upper body into it, as well as going from the crouch position from when I started the cast to where I am now. This is telling me that I might have to spread my legs just a hair more, so that way I stay grounded throughout the start of the cast all the way to the end. As I transition my body weight from my right leg to my left leg, that way I'm leaning into the cast as I continue to go forward.
Hey, Al. I said he was on the way. You'll be good. You'll be good. Wet it a little bit.
I'm assuming fishing didn't work for them today.
Alright, here we go. Let's go and break this cast down. Let's see what I do differently on this one. As y'all saw on the first one, when I was rocking the weight back behind me to start my circular motion, I had the weight tip, or the weight to the tip, very high. So I kind of noticed that, and I'm trying to prevent that on this cast. Let's see what it looks like when I start my cast. Right here when my left leg moves, I'm starting to move, and it looks a lot more level on that one. And it was perfect. I did not hit the floor on that, which means I got all the weight transference. Right here you can see the rod blank is pretty straight, but right as I'm starting to move my left leg, the tip is pointed down. That is telling me that the weight is already low to the ground, and as I start to move through the cast again, you see that it does not hit the floor. But let's check my arms. They both look like they got a slight bend to them. Obviously my arms are not going to be perfectly straight, but that's still a lot better than the other cast where I was closer to a 90-degree angle, and these I'm probably sitting at about a bill 20 on the degrees of my arms being extended out. And then the follow through of the cast, tucking it down to my left hip and right arm straight up, and do not bring that rod tip down. That's another important deal of closing out your cast. You see how the rod tip is pointed straight up? where I ended my cast, that was something that Big Dan was telling me, was that when I cast out and I'm through with my cast, do not pull that rod tip down toward the ground. You want to keep it in the same angle that you finished off your cast. And the reason for that is because once you got your cast going and you start changing the angle of the rod that the line is coming off of, you're going to be slowing down your cast and hurting your distance, and you don't want to go ahead and do that. So as you can see, it's straight up and down here. Now let's go and move on to the next cast.
Hey Nick, they're catching on the pompano out there. Get greedy. Get greedy. Over mag.
Alright guys, so I've got my weight back. I'm starting my counterclockwise circular pattern, and let's go ahead and see how this cast looks from there. I'm gonna go ahead and stop it right there. This is where I have already moved my left foot forward and I'm starting to load the rod. This is something that I was real adamant about on John's video, where the start of where your cast is going to go starts at that point. So I got a full turn and rotation of loading the rod the whole time, instead of trying to get it loaded by moving forward with the rotation. As well as my feet were planted a bit more. It was just maybe a couple inch difference between the last start and my start here, and that is what sets up for the next cast. Now, just because you got the cast going doesn't mean that the cast ends there. As you saw right here, I over magged it, which means I loosened it up too fast and too soon, that it backlashed on me and it broke off the line, so the cast doesn't even count. Alright, so you saw me celebrate that cast, so obviously a bunch of things went right. Let's go ahead and slow it down and let's see how it all worked out and came together. As I am also learning the timing of the weight, I have learned that I step it off just a little sooner, and it is allowing me to get that rod blank to be straight. And here's going to be a little close up right here. You can see the rod blank is pretty much flush parallel against the floor, against my whole body as I am starting my turn. My left foot is kicking out in front of me, getting the ground placement. My head is already turned to the left, looking in the direction I am ready to take the cast to. So the look is there. I'm looking up, bring the rod up and over, and it is gone. This is one of the casts that did produce a 670 foot cast with 150 gram. Here's my next one. One of the things I did see on this is that I noticed my footing. I'm still on my tippy toes, and as I was watching some of the other guys when they were casting, their footing was sure-footed. Like when they landed with their feet firmly planted on the ground, which in turn does translate to a super great cast, because as they turn to put all that inertia, all that force behind the rod, they got to have their feet firmly planted. And I have it for like a split second to try to launch my rod there, but I think if I can turn and get my feet planted a little firmer, I think I'll really turn out a great cast to where I can start hitting further distances. Now, let's check out another cast real quick. Another thing I want to reiterate, this is my second day, but first time casting with this reel kind of deal. And it is a stock reel. It has a mono mag that is attached to it to help me better control the spool. However, it is still stock bearings, which I have now upgraded thanks to Big Dan. He hooked me up with an extra pair of ceramic bearings, guys. So I know I have a lot of potential to grow. And with all the help of all these guys that are in this deal, that are willing to share their knowledge with all the new casters, such as myself. I mean, yes, I'm a distance caster from the pier, occasional beach. But once you stick or you step into their world of this type of casting, I'm a newbie. I'm learning from them, learning the different diameters of the monofilament, the different types of reels, the different types of rods, timing, stepping, footing, and even the types of knots that are used, and also what you got to look out for when tying these knots, and how often do you leave them on your rod per cast, and what to look for as you go through the day of casting. A lot of the mishaps of break-offs was because the knot failed after a certain amount of times. And this is something that you normally don't deal with when you are casting regular fishing reels, that I have seen, because I am using hollow core braid. But again, guys, big shout out to all the guys that were at the event, that were passing on knowledge and helping out the young guys like me get after it. As we'll continue to go to these events and learn more, be sure to check them out, man. They're distance casters that can bring a lot of improvement to your casting if you're willing to put in the time, willing to put in the patience, and having an open ear for constructive criticism, because these guys have really got the knowledge to help you guys. So again, have a good one, and I hope to see you at the next casting event.